John chapter 1 verse 43. The next day Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Okay, so again we have next day, which is a clear what happened after Jesus' baptism. The next day this happened, the next day that happened, the next day that happened. So it's day. Okay, and I've already mentioned this is showing back towards Genesis chapter 1 with God doing, it's like evening and morning, next day kind of, okay. And so the next day what he does is he goes out to Galilee, and where he finds Philip, which by the name Philip, it's clearly not a, well, it sounds more like a Greek name, right? Philip. And so he asked him, and we're going to see later on when the Greeks, the Hellenists came, they came to Philip and asked him for an audience with Jesus. That's later. That's going to be a sign that the end is nigh for Jesus, that is. And he told him to follow him. If you remember in the previous verses, the guys that came, the first disciples, like Andrew and the other disciple, they were informed by John the Baptist, that is, concerning that Jesus is a lamb, so they followed him. And then John went to find his brother the next day, and then now the next day, here Jesus going out, and in this case, Jesus is the one doing the calling. Right? He is not. It's not because someone is telling about. It's not John telling his disciples. It's not one of the disciples telling Peter. It is Jesus himself. So there's this growth as well in this taking up of the authority of. But I think that is kind of what is happening here. Is showing that he is replacing us. There's just other people pointing towards, but that he is now taking control of the situation. Okay, so he is the one in calling Philip. Verse 44, now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Right, so the same city, so they would have known each other. Okay, that's how it works in cities like that, small, and people would know each other. Okay, so it's just as well as stated in the fact that they would have known each other in this case. Verse 45, Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Okay, so Philip then goes to Nathanael and he tells him, no, we don't know the relationship between Philip and Nathanael. It's not stated as if they were related in any way. Maybe most likely not, because again the name Nathanael, L at the end, would be more a Jewish name, and Philip more a Greek kind. But that does not imply, because I mean I know people with from the same family with like Christian names and non-Christian names, kind of, right? So it's not that always would imply something, but it's at least we don't know of the relationship. Okay, we can maybe guess about it, but we don't know the relationship. I mean, he knew him. That's all. That's important. And he said that we found him that's written in the law of Moses and the prophets, or of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote. So written in the Pentateuch, in the 5 books of Moses, understandably. Now earlier in the chapter was written that, but the law came through Moses and then grace through the Son. And I did mention there that it's not that he's contrasting now the law as bad and the Son as good, or grace, and the distinction between law and grace kind of distinction here. It was more because this is what you're teaching people reading this, to whom I'm writing this, but now through Christ. So there needs to be a shift in how you interpret this kind of idea, right? Don't focus so much on that. But why I say this, because it didn't point out there that the law is bad. Because here, clearly, in this chapter, later on in this chapter, he's speaking of, but the law spoke about Jesus, right? So if the law was kind of bad, as people interpret that verse earlier in John, then you have a problem here, okay? Because now here, clearly, it stated, you learn in the law of Moses and the prophets, or Moses in the law and the prophets wrote about this. So if that law is so bad, then what good can come from this? Nothing. Okay, so that's as well pointing then back to what I said concerning those verses, that this is not a dichotomy between law and grace that's being discussed there at all. Okay, that was not the question there. Okay, so here Moses wrote about this. So that would as well imply that these people studied. That they knew what Moses and the prophets wrote, right? Unlike what people would say, oh, but they were just fishermen, they didn't know anything, right? They're just the Hollywood hillbillies kind of idea, or hillbillies, they don't understand these kinds of concepts. They're just farmers' boys. No, actually, they understood because they could point towards what Nathaniel would know, that Moses' law, the prophets wrote about this, and this is now Philip pointing that out. And Jesus is Nazareth, the son of Joseph. This is important. This Jesus of Nazareth, son of Joseph, is important because it's going to now, this will lead up to this answer of Nathaniel concerning this. Okay, so from that area, he's from our area, right? Verse 46. Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." So the answer, or the answer question by Nathanael in that situation is like, okay, thank you very much. I know of this Messiah they're speaking of, Moses and the prophets. Yes, I agree. I mean, I understand. I know there's something that is there. But you want to tell me that the Messiah you found out, the one that Moses wrote about, came from what again? Nazareth? Can anything good come from Nazareth? Really? Okay, so this is as well an important point, not just in his question. Like, so the people even in that area, close to Nazareth, had a kind of very bleak view concerning Nazareth. Nothing good can come out of Nazareth. So sure, they did not have the best of like say reputation. Okay, now the added information here that stands as well behind it, because remember John writing to the leadership, the Jewish leadership, they as well said nothing good can come out of Nazareth, right? We know where he's from. He's from nothing good can come from there. So by one of the disciples or the prophet, the apostles asking this question, can anything good come from Nazareth? Is the exact same question they're going to ask later on, and the answer already is given to him. It's not say, "Oh, wow, you have got a point," or "Yes, something good can come out of that." No, that's not what he answered. He said, "Come and see." Okay, come and see for yourself. You're willing to send people all the way from Jerusalem here to come and check out about what John is doing and why he's doing what he's doing. And like, right? So if you can do that, you can ask about Jesus in this case as well. So about Jesus, I'm telling you this. I'm not saying, yes, that is something good can come because Jesus came from there. I'm telling you, come and see. Okay, and that as well plays. I mean, there's so much at play here. Well, I mean, like I can go on forever on just in this verse or whatever. And there's so much in the Gospel of John. What else is in play here is the fact of the seeing is believing. When in the second last chapter is going to say that those who don't see but believe, they are blessed. But do only believe the word. Okay, they are the blessed ones. Right, so that is as well a thing that is. So many connections that John is making by Philip saying that this is Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth, and then leading to the answer or the answer question of Nathaniel, which then ultimately as well would play into the same kind of questions these people ask, and then into the question of seeing is believing. And actually those who just hear, they are blessed.